Hi, it's Bob Brown, and this is going to be kind of a news show for Bloomington, Indiana. I'm recording this Sunday, August 20th, 2017, and this is from the Herald Times, and we're going to look at this here, Griffin acquitted of Gentry slaying. It's part of the cold case files of Bloomington. So I'm going to read this verbatim, and then we'll have a little discussion. And this is all, the work is by Abby Tonsing. Abby Tonsing. She can be reached if you have information at 812-331-4245. Abby Tonsing, 812-331-4245. She's the journalist that reported. The title of this is Griffin Acquitted of Gentry Slaying. Monroe County jurors have acquitted John Griffin. That's him right there. Sorry. It's a blurry picture, I know. It's an actual newspaper. Monroe County jurors have acquitted John Griffin in the murder case of 66-year-old Donald Gentry, who police say was beaten to death inside his mobile home during a drug robbery last fall. And the subtitle here is September 2016 Death has led to 2 murder trials and 2 acquittals. Griffin acquitted of Gentry slaying. Monroe County jurors have acquitted John Griffin. The jury spent about 2.5 hours deliberating before its verdict of not guilty was announced in Monroe County Court early Thursday afternoon. Monroe County investigators arrested John Griffin, a 63-year-old man who had been living in a van 1 month after a friend found Gentry dead inside his mobile home at 4537 South Old Indiana 37, the afternoon of September 12, 2016. Griffin isn't the only person who has been acquitted of murder in this homicide case. Christina Harmon, who was arrested in March as Griffin's accomplice, faced her own jury trial in June. She, too, was acquitted of Gentry's murder and robbery. Harmon, a longtime confidential informant, led Monroe County detectives to a blood-stained landscaping brick that had been tossed behind the North Side Motel 6 in a small wooded area between 2 privacy fences. Detectives also found a claw hammer about 10 feet away from the brick. Forensic investigators found Gentry's DNA on the hammer, and Gentry is the person who was murdered. Forensic investigators found Gentry's DNA on the hammer and on a plastic bottle of glass cleaner found in the center console of Griffin's van. So let me say that carefully again. Forensic investigators found Gentry's, the murder victim, DNA on the hammer and on a plastic bottle of glass cleaner found in the center console of Griffin's, the alleged, now acquitted, suspect. Investigators could not determine whose DNA was on the bloody brick. The prosecution argued Gentry had been beaten to death with the brick and the hammer. Police again used Harmon as a confidential informant to record a conversation with Griffin inside his van the morning of October 11th, 2016. So Harmon, who was a suspect, also acquitted, they used her as a confidential informant, and they must have wiretapped her to talk to Griffin to see what he would say. It's on A6. That's some pictures there. This is the murder victim, Gentry, and this is the Harmon. She was a suspect, but she has been acquitted. And it says, verdict, Griffin is second person accused and acquitted of killing Donald Gentry. Deputies arrested Griffin that afternoon. And I guess that afternoon was October 11th, 2016, I think. Griffin's defense argued Thursday Griffin is the male suspect now acquitted. Griffin's defense argued Thursday morning that Harmon used her skills as a professional confidential informant to manipulate the homicide investigation for her own personal gain. Public defender Amy Payne detailed the lies she said Harmon told police and the bargains she negotiated to get out of jail. So, I'm a little confused here. Let me go back to that. So, Griffin's defense argued Thursday. Griffin, he's the man. He's acquitted, but he was accused. Griffin's defense argued Thursday morning that Harmon used her skills as a public confidential informant to manipulate the homicide investigation for her own personal gain. Public defender Amy Payne detailed the lies. So Amy Payne was Griffin's attorney. That's what I'm making out from here. Public defender Amy Payne detailed the lies she said Harmon told police and the bargains she negotiated to get out of jail. Quote, she was able to clear her name, get out of jail, and find her perfect fall guy for the murder, end quote, Payne said. Amy Payne was the public defender. Quote, her targets were the detectives and John Griffin, the accused now acquitted, and her reward was her freedom, end quote. The defense argued Harmon filled a, quote, a power vacuum between the detectives, end quote. I'm not sure what that means. Police did not chase other potential leads or suspects after Griffin's arrest. Technicians did not collect pertinent evidence. And there's like a typo here. I don't know. It just says 7. It must be a typo. 7. The technicians did not collect pertinent evidence, the number 7, and the state didn't call Harmon to testify, Payne said. You got to really unpack that one. The defense argued Harmon filled, quote, a power vacuum between the detectives, end quote. Power vacuum. I mean, was there an argument or something? I don't know. I don't know what that means. Police did not chase other potential leads or suspects after Griffin's arrest. Technicians did not collect pertinent evidence, and the state didn't call Harmon to testify, Payne said. So the prosecutor didn't call Harmon to testify. There's a power vacuum between, this is me editorializing, there's a power vacuum between the detectives. Police did not chase other potential leads or suspects. Technicians did not collect pertinent evidence. Okay, I continue on. There was just one positive match for Griffin's DNA in all the evidence gathered in the homicide investigation and tested by forensic investigators. It was on the swab police used to collect a DNA sample from Griffin's cheek. I read that a couple times. I'm still not sure what that says. I'm not the smartest person in the world. So let me go over that paragraph again. There was just one positive match for Griffin's DNA in all the evidence gathered. Griffin's is the accused, now acquitted suspect who's now been free. There was just one positive match for Griffin's DNA in all the evidence gathered in the homicide investigation and tested by forensic investigators. It was on the swab police used to collect a DNA sample from Griffin's cheek. So the only DNA sample they had of Griffin, this is me editorializing, is the sample they took from him. There's no other evidence, no other collected DNA evidence. Let's go on. Quote, throughout this week, the state hasn't given you much information to rely on, end quote, Payne concluded. Payne, Amy Payne, is the public defender for Griffin. Quote, this investigation is Christina's masterpiece. Detectives allowed Christina, that's Christina Harmon, that's her. Sorry, it's her. She's acquitted. She's innocent. She's not been proven guilty. This investigation is Christina's masterpiece. Detectives allowed Christina into the heart of the investigation, and she led them in the wrong direction, end quote. So that was Amy Payne. I'll read that one more time. Throughout this week, the state hasn't given you much information to rely on, Payne concluded. This investigation is Christina's masterpiece. Detectives allowed Christina into the heart of the investigation, and she led them in the wrong direction, end quote. Deputy Prosecutor Erica Oliphant pointed jurors to clues in the conversation Harmon recorded in Griffin's van. In it, Harmon asked Griffin, these were the two suspects, both acquitted. They're both acquitted, not guilty. In it, Harmon asked Deputy Prosecutor Erica Oliphant pointed jurors to clues in the conversation Harmon recorded in Griffin's van. In it, Harmon asked Griffin if he knew that he had killed Gentry. Quote, no, because he was moaning, asking me, why, Griffin responded. I'm not sure what that means, to be editorializing here. I don't know if that's him saying it. No, because he was moaning, asking Harmon? I'm not sure of what that means. Why, Griffin responded. No, quote, no, because he was moaning, asking me, why, Griffin responded. So I think when Harmon asked him this question, if he knew that he had killed Gentry, Harmon asked Griffin, then he replied, no. So I guess he's saying, no, I do not know that I killed him. Why, Griffin responded. I think that's what that's saying. Griffin realized was the suspect who's now acquitted, not guilty. Griffin realized Harmon was working as an informant, and Harmon confirmed she was recording their conversation. So Griffin realized Harmon was working as an informant, and Harmon confirmed she was recording the conversation. Griffin didn't say much after that. Quote, it was probably a drug deal gone bad, you know what I mean? He did remark. End quote. You know what I mean? End quote. He did remark. So I assume, I'm not sure, I assume Griffin said, quote, it was probably a drug deal gone bad, comma, you know what I mean, question, close parenthesis, he did not remark. In a second recorded conversation that day, this time with Monroe County Sheriff's detectives, after his arrest, Griffin first insisted he did not know Gentry or where he lived. He then told detectives he thought Gentry was Harmon's friend who sold drugs, and Griffin said he believed Harmon was framing him. And that is the end of the article. So I don't know what to make of that. So for what I understand, this is why I call it cold case file. So a person's been killed in Bloomington. His name is Donald Gentry. Monroe County jurors have acquitted John Griffin. He was one of the suspects. And Christina Harmon, she was a suspect. Both of them were suspects in this murder case, and it led to 2 murder trials and 2 acquittals. So we have an unsolved murder. But there's some interesting points in here that it's interesting that the defense attorney, Amy Payne, she says the defense argued Harmon filled a power vacuum, quote, a power vacuum between the detectives. I don't know what that means. Power vacuum, does it sound like 2 detectives were arguing? This is me editorializing. I don't know what it means. Were the 2 detectives mad at each other? Was there a senior detective and a junior detective? And the senior detective had one idea and the junior detective had another? I don't know what that means. I wish Amy Tonson could let us know that we know what that means. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to tell you. She was able, quote, she was able to clear her name, get out of jail, and find her perfect fall guy for the murder, Payne said. Quote, her targets were the detectives and John Griffin, and her reward was her freedom. So, is Amy Payne saying that Christina masterminded all this and she was able to misdirect people? And then she goes on later, throughout this week, the state has given you much information to rely on. This investigation is Christine. This is what interests me. Quote, this is from Amy Payne, the public defender. Quote, this investigation is Christina's masterpiece. Detectives allowed Christina into the heart of the investigation, and she led them in the wrong direction, end quote. Deputy Prosecutor Erica Oliphant pointed jurors to clues in the conversation Harmon recorded in the Griffin van. In it, it seems like the state's case against Griffin was this recorded conversation. In it, Harmon asked Griffin if he knew he had killed Gentry. Quote, no, because he was moaning, asking me why. Griffin realized Harmon was working as an informant, and Harmon confirmed she was recording a conversation. Of course, Griffin didn't say anything else after that. But he did later respond, it was probably a drug deal gone bad. You know what I mean. Quote, he did remark. And that would be Griffin saying that. In the second recorded conversation that day, this time with Monroe County Sheriff's detective after his arrest, Griffin first insisted he did not know Gentry where he lived. He told detectives he thought Gentry was Harmon's friend who sold drugs, and Griffin said he believed Harmon was framing him. That's a fascinating case here in Bloomington, Indiana. So this is going to go into the files of the cold case, because we're not going to know, as of right now, the murder of Donald Gentry, 66 years old, is unsolved. And we have two trials here. We have two trials and two acquittals. And they didn't collect any evidence, and they didn't go after any other leads. So if there's any evidence left, maybe they have it, in storage. I don't know. So I've been noticing that there's these cold case file murders we have in Bloomington, and this is going to join the ranks of them. This is going to join the ranks of them. I don't know. I put it out there for future historians. This is what we saw in the paper this day. I don't know. I mean, there's been this latest slew of evidence of DNA tampering, and DNA is not as accurate as we've been led to believe. And in this case, it seems that the only DNA they had of one of the acquitted suspects, who's now been found not guilty, Griffin, the only DNA they had of him was the actual sample they took, the swab they took from inside his cheek. I don't know. What do we make of that? Was justice served? I don't know. So I thought it was worth putting it out there for people to look at in the future. I mean, I'm not a good detective. I just found it interesting, how this seemed to be a person who was let into the heart of the investigation, who was also a suspect acquitted of this crime, who's now found not guilty. It's very interesting. This is something that someone probably should investigate. Okay, well, that's going to join the ranks of many cold case files here, and there's some older ones that I want to get on the internet, and so that perhaps someone has information that could lead to the finding out who did kill this person, Donald Gentry, 66 years old. Regardless of the activity, murder is murder. And right now we have an unsolved case, two murder trials, and two acquittals, two people found not guilty. And by the laws of the land, that's it. They're free to walk, and maybe they should be free to walk. But we're left with a big unknown. If you have any information that could lead, I would send it to Amy Tonsing, 812-331-4245, or atonsing at heraldteeth.com. That's ATONSING at Herald T, HERALDT.com. I'll put it in the link below. So, that's another cold case for Bloomington, Indiana, and Monroe County.